Hello and welcome to HBM's Crypto-Corner for Wednesday, December 8th, 2021. We have a few things to talk about, so let's get started. New species of early human, why we should be cautious about new fossil footprint findings. A collection of fossil footprints at May-HBM in northern Tanzania, preserved in a volcanic ash and dated to 3.66 million years ago, are still yielding surprises almost 45 years after their discovery. Based on a reanalysis of fossil footprints from one of Laetoli's sites, the authors of a new study published in the journal Nature say they discovered evidence of a previously unknown early human species at this spot. However, there are reasons to be cautious about this conclusion. Before we delve into these new findings, let's orientate ourselves. Laetoli, an area well known for paleontological excavations, has a number of distinct sites, each denoted by letters of the alphabet. British paleoanthropologist Mary Leakey and her colleagues first reported fossil footprints in 1978 at Site G, the main track site at Laetoli. In 2016, a team led by Fidelis Maceo, an archaeologist in Tanzania, uncovered additional tracks close to Site G at Site S. The footprints from Sites G and S are usually assigned to the well-known ancestral human hominid species Australopithecus afarensis, of which the skeleton Lucy is the best-known example. Less well known is the fact that in 1976, 2 years before Leakey's famous discovery, a set of 5 footprints were found at Site A. Importantly, all these sites occur on the same ash surface, so we know they date from the same time period. But the 5 footprints from Site A were largely forgotten, eclipsed by Leakey's later discovery. This was understandable because the footprints at Site A had poor morphological shape or definition, and there were fewer of them. There are more than 30 individual footprints at Site G. In 1987, American paleoanthropologist Russell Tuttle suggested that these footprints may have been made by a species of bear or by a different hominin from those of Site G. He also cautioned that the diversity in the footprints' form as compared to those at Site G might simply reflect the changing properties of the ash layer over which the hominin walked. Seeking to find out who these footprints belonged to, a team of international researchers re-excavated the tracks from Site A in 2019. Their findings are the focus of the new paper in Nature. The researchers used various methods, including photography and 3D scanning, to inspect the Site A footprints. They compared the width and length with footprints from black bears, chimpanzees, and humans, as well as the tracks from Sites G and S. They explored the bear hypothesis by examining video footage of modern black bears which on rare occasions walk upright. The authors concluded that, on balance, the footprints at Site A did not resemble bear tracks and were different from the footprints at Sites G and S. One particular feature they draw attention to is that the Site A trackway cross steps, almost as if one was attempting to toe a line as part of a sobriety test. Based on this and their other findings, the authors suggest that the tracks at Site A were made by a different hominin than those at Sites G and S. They argued that 2 hominin species walked the Laetoli landscape 3.66 million years ago. The broader evolutionary context at this time suggests what the authors are proposing would be possible. There was more than one species of hominin on the African landscape during this period, and we've seen anatomical variation in the foot within some Australopithecus species. That said, it's quite a significant leap to identify a second species based on a handful of poorly defined tracks. Variation in trackways is the key issue here. Imagine going for a walk down the beach or a sandy path. The footprints you make will vary from one step to the next. This reflects natural variability in human gait, as well as subtle differences in the characteristics of the ground you're walking on. In a recent paper, we suggested that you need a minimum of between 10 and 20 footprints before you can confidently quantify the variability in just one dimension, such as footprint length, let alone several. Others have suggested that you may need over 250 tracks to adequately quantify the three-dimensional form of a footprint. Footfall and the resulting footprints are more variable than once thought, and some have argued that even individuals of the same species may have highly unique gaits. In this context, it is rather surprising that the authors of this paper make inferences not just about one individual, but a whole species. One way to strengthen their conclusions would be to use modern whole-foot methods to statistically compare the best footprint at Site A with those at Sites S and G. This could be an approach for future research. Certainly more evidence is needed to determine whether these footprints justify this excitement, and do indeed belong to another early human species. So, what we have here is either a mystery or something different. Isn't it another human species? Who knows? Seems like it might be, but obviously we have to be cautiously optimistic. And that's the best approach to take in this case. Pennsylvania mayor says suspected encounter with Bigfoot was life-changing. Sorry folks, I'm having some trouble with the page here. By Tim Banal. The mayor of a town in Pennsylvania believes that he once encountered Bigfoot during a camping trip decades ago and says that the terrifying experience changed his life forever. Sharing the wild story with a local media outlet, Greg Stokes says that the incident occurred back in July of 1984 while he and his girlfriend were spending the night out in the wilderness near the Delaware River. Suddenly, the still stunned witness, who now serves as the mayor of the borough of this page is giving me trouble here. Regalsville recounted the peacefulness of the night was pierced by the presence of something large and seemingly bipedal lurking around their campsite. It proceeded to stalk me for 2 hours and then screamed at me at the top of its lungs when I was inside my tent, Stokes recalled. The scream was just absolutely incredible. It was definitely territorial. It was definitely directed at us. The mayor says that the low guttural call was so powerful that it vibrated his body to the point that he couldn't see inside the tent. It was like looking through shimmering water. Amazingly, Stokes remembers how the creature behind the sound was seemingly so close to the campsite that I could hear its lips pop open when it started to scream. Although he did not catch sight of whatever animal it was, behind the unnerving scream, Stokes is fairly certain that he had run afoul of Sasquatch. I'm 99% sure it was Bigfoot, the mayor declared, and I leave the 1% of doubt only because I didn't actually see it. Stokes explained that he eventually exited the tent and uneasily sat around the campfire until dawn when he searched the area, but found no sign of Sasquatch or anything else that night that might have made the sound. Be that as it may, the mayor mused that that scream was life-changing as it sent him on a path looking for answers as to what he heard that fateful night. In the ensuing 37 years, Stokes has dedicated considerable time and energy in researching Bigfoot to the point that he even journeyed to the famed Bluff Creek, where the iconic Patterson-Gimlin film was captured. In a testament to just how unsettling the incident that sparked his obsession with the legendary creature was, the mayor revealed he did not return to the camping spot until 2014. As for what Sasquatch could be, Stokes backed the theory that it is a massive remnant hominid known as Gigantopithecus, which he argues may have somehow survived in the wilds of North America undetected to this day. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. Could this future mayor have encountered a Sasquatch? It's entirely possible. Entirely possible. Finally, terrifying Oregon scream alarms Southern Oregon family. A man recalls hearing a terrifying scream while he was a boy living with his family in Southern Oregon. He hears the same sound of the BFRO site 28 years later and realizes it was a Bigfoot. The following account was recently forwarded to me. I have heard deer make some pretty strange noises, but never heard one make a hissing noise myself. I'm not saying they can't. I have heard some noises in the woods that I cannot explain, but the one that scared me the most was when I was about 15 years old. I had gone to bed about 11 p.m. as I was reading with all the lights off except a lamp beside my bed. At about 12 or 12:30 a.m., I heard a faint noise coming from the creek bottom about 3/4 of a mile away. 3 or 4 miles away. Would you be able to hear that far? We rented a house on a 300-acre cattle farm in Southern Oregon. The 300 acres was backed up to a 2,000-acre timber company tract with no roads except logging trails. I had heard bobcats, cougar, and all other calls before, as my older brother and I hunted those woods all the time. This noise or call was different. It would start with a low-pitched moan or howl, then rise to a high-pitched scream, and then end with an undulating cough or grunt. It's hard to explain because I had never heard it before or since. The ending sounded kind of like the ending of an elk bugle with a large bull's grunt, but not exactly. It kept coming closer toward the house, through the pasture, and past the barns that were about 100 yards below the house. I had gotten up, loaded my 30-30 lever action, and started up the hallway toward the front door. Now, I was already scared, but what happened next filled me with terror. As I was walking by my parents' bedroom door, which was open, my dad says, "Son, stay in the house." I said, "What is that noise?" He said, "I don't know. I never heard anything like it before." I froze in my tracks. I knew if my father was afraid of whatever it was, at that point I wanted no part of it. He was a World War II veteran, had hunted the same woods as he was a boy in the 1930s, had walked everywhere he went until he got a car after returning from the war, night or day. The noise, call, or whatever it was so loud I felt as if it felt like the windows were vibrating. I listened as it passed by the house in a pine thicket, crossed the highway, and faded out of hearing. The whole thing lasted about 10 to 15 minutes. I had not heard anything even close to that until I found the BFRO site and listened to some of the so-called Bigfoot calls. They made my hair tingle on my neck and brought back that old memory from 28 years ago. R. So we have a very interesting story. It's nothing more than an anecdote, unfortunately. No way to really verify it, but still pretty interesting. Then again, I think we do have quite a few anecdotes in the Bigfoot field which people take seriously. But still pretty fascinating, you have to say. And that's going to do it for this week. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. You guys are the heart of the show. I always say that, but I always mean it, and I'll continue to do this as long as you guys want me to. And hey, until next week, y'all be good or be good. This is May-HBM's Crypto Corner.